a few husbands by the time she married his son. And they got a kingdom in Asia Minor. I think it was Little Armenia. And they, I think I mentioned this to you before, their picture is on coins from Little Armenia. The Romans gave them a kingdom, and they're portrayed there. There should be a picture of Salome on one of the coins. And it's, they called themselves great lovers of Caesar. I'm sure they were, but maybe they actually were as well. Maybe there was a threesome going on there. Some of those Caesars were pretty wild, according to Suetonius. So the lovers could have been a double entendre in the case of their coinage. And it wouldn't surprise me a single bit if that were the case. Anyway, why is she again so sought after? Well, that's by the way, a cousin marriage there, because the man she married was the son of Herod, and she was the daughter of Herodias, and Herodias was Agrippa I's sister. I know it's very complicated. So Herodias was the Maccabean princess line still, and therefore Salome would be too, if you want to go for the bloodline. So I have that all in the genealogies in the back of the James book, don't I? Let's just hold them up so these people believe us, yeah. Yeah, you see we have the Maccabean ones here, and then we have the Herodian ones spread across the whole page here. And we tell you who these people are, and we have all the dates in the back here. So with some good maps and things, so it's worth having, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth having. It's worth having.
Good reading too.
If you have the time. All right. So I think we're getting a mixture of things going on here. I hope I haven't lost you. One, the imprisonment of Peter would have been under, I think, Herod of Chalcis this time. The killing of James, the brother of John, whoever he's supposed to be, would have been Herod of Chalcis. Agrippa I wouldn't have done this. The death here is Agrippa I's death. So we're telescoping several events here together, and you say, well, Eisenman, you think you know the history better than this guy? You're 2,000 years later. Yeah, I do. I think I do. Because I think this person was pretty slapdash in the way he or she presented things until Acts 16, when things get much more careful when the we document comes in. I think this is an attempt by an amateur to recreate some things on the basis of some sources that he's kind of juggling around and has ideological axe to grind. Have I made my point clear? But by the time when you get to 16, then it gets more serious. And we'll show you that, and it gets less confusing too. Anyway, he died being eaten up by worms, and Paul and Barnabas returned from Jerusalem, having completed their mission, bringing with them John Mark, right? Yeah, but what they do there? They completed their mission. What? You see, all this has been put in the middle of where the mission was supposed to be. So again, we have a complaint to the author here. Now, if you're a religious person solely and not interested in academia or historical studies or what we're trying to do at this campus, that's so sufficient for you, won't bother you. But if you are not just interested in this for religious reasons, then of course you're going to be, that's going to be worrisome again. So all this mounts up to the point is you get your confidence in Acts, it really deteriorates. Because you want to know, well, if I got this paper in my class, I'd give it a C. If you said, I'm going to tell you about Paul and Barnabas' famine relief mission, and then went on to write about something else, and then suddenly at the very end say, and they returned and never told me anything about it. I'd say, I put a big question mark in your paper, but this is the Bible. You can't do it. But you would if you were the teacher. So don't, I know that the messenger is the one who gets the bad rap, but don't rap me. Rap the guy who did this. 13. Certain prophets and teachers, back to this theme, in Antioch. Remember, we're worried about which Antioch this is. But here they are. Barnabas, Simeon, called Niger, whoever that was. Niger means shoemaker, but something else. There was a Niger in Josephus, who is one of the revolutionary leaders, who has a death in Josephus in the time of the war against Rome, very much like Jesus. He carries his own cross out of a city and stuff. It's very interesting parallel. I've always been curious about the Niger. It can also mean black in Greek too. Lucius the Cyrenian, who I think is Luke, to whom we attribute this. Cyrene is where? North Africa, next to Egypt, present-day Libya. These are the prophets and teachers who whatever we want to make up. Now, a really weird name. Manan. Mayonnaise. Manan. There may have been such a person. It's a possible Greek. I don't think you'll find any other person ever named that in any Greek literature. I think it's another one of these garbles. I'll tell you who I think it is. I'll bet you already know who I think it is. Anyway, the interesting aside is he was Herod the Tetrarch's foster brother. That is, he was a close relative and brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, who's a nasty piece of work, as we know. Who's Herod the Tetrarch again? He's Herod Antipas, not one of the Maccabean lines, but he's married to Herodias, which brings about the death of John the Baptist. He takes Philip's wife, or whoever, if it was Philip or another individual. Anyway, he's the one who gets, why they all want Herodias? She's his niece marriage condemned in the scrolls, but also she's the Maccabean line, so they can plug into that line, they're going to get favorites in Rome, and probably that's the richest line. That is, why is it the Maccabean line? Herod's wife, who was a Maccabean princess, the only one who had any legitimacy in the eyes of the people. All right, here's a foster brother of that person who we know was responsible for the death of John the Baptist. Now, that is, I think you will go around this room. Anyone who doesn't like me, I understand your feelings, but on this score, you can't disagree. We know Herod the Tetrarch was responsible for the death of John the Baptist. Anyone want to gainsay me on that? No, you won't, I'm sure. And he was not a nice person. Can we all agree on that? He's a blue meanie. A foster brother of his is among the founding members of the church in so-called Antioch, wherever that is. Okay, I think that's a tremendously important notice. I think about the only human being in history of the church studies who ever even paid any attention to it. Because others not interested in it, but I care about things like that. Barnabas, we know, and so on. So, I think a little